Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations in Horror. I am your host, Kevin L. Powers, and I want to welcome you to this week's amazing adventure into everything horror, cult, or classic. For this week, we're going to be venturing into the film that is called Pontypool, and we're doing it as special this month because we are celebrating Valentine's Day for the whole month, and this film happens to take place on Valentine's Day. And to speak everything about Pontypool, I have with me Sarah Panozzo, who is an amazing filmmaker and all that other good stuff and technical expert. But I'm going to let her tell you exactly what she does and how well she does it. Sarah, take it away for me.
I'm Sarah. I do some electrical work for films, and I really adore this movie because I came from a theatrical background and it very much could be a stage play, which it actually ended up being a stage play written at the same time. And so I really enjoy this. It's really well done.
Okay. I did not know it was a stage play as well. Did it just perform in Canada or where did it perform? Do you?
I believe so. So when they were making this, they had so the guy who wrote the screenplay is also the original author of the book. And while they were making the movie, they also adapted it as a radio play that they ended up doing as a stage play, a la War of the Worlds, which is where he got most of the influence from. But he then had the actors from this, I believe, perform in that stage play. So I did find a version of it on YouTube, which I need to watch, but I think that's awesome that they were able to do both at the same time. And it also has a different ending in the stage play.
Interesting.
So, yeah,
Interesting. Okay, so now that we're speaking like this, what was the first time or what was your first impressions of the movie when you first saw it?
I can't remember the exact time that I watched it. I know it was streaming or it was no, it wasn't streaming. I think I had searched the pirate seas for it. Um but I remember watching it the first time knowing that it was like a cult classic, hearing it was one of the better minor zombie movies. And I watched it the first time and I was just blown away by how good it was and how intense it could be without actually showing any of the gore or violence throughout it. So it's definitely held up. I had a lot of fun rewatching it last night and it's so intense and the music makes it just absolutely perfect.
Hmm. So I would have never seen this film probably if it hadn't been for Stephen McHattie. I actually like him as a character actor, and this was one of those few films where he is actually the star of the movie. So when I saw he was involved with it, that's when I decided to find out about it and watch it. That being said, I didn't really know it was a zombie slash infected type movie before I saw it. I just kind of saw it because he was in it, and I was pleasantly surprised when I watched the film because I thought it was extremely creative in terms of it being in a single location enclosed type of film. I really enjoy those type of movies where they're single locations and enclosed and like a haunted house movies I love because you get them stuck in one little location and that's pretty much it with a a limited number of characters. So I love these type of films and stories, and I was just really taken back by the fact that this was also a stage play. So now I have to listen to it or watch this play as well because that's very interesting to me now.
Yeah, no, I had never really followed McCaddy until this, and I'm surprised he doesn't play more radio DJs because his voice is like so silky smooth in this. Like he sounds like a real radio DJ, and it works so well.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That being said, one of what are some of the things that really stuck with you with this film when watching it?
Um, like I was saying, the lack of visuals, like you hear a lot of things from prior episodes. I'm really big on leaving things to the imagination, and the fact that you get the callers calling in about what's going on, you don't really see anything until the actual end of the movie. It's it's very interesting, and then the fact that it's not your typical zombie movie. It's I think they call them conversationalists instead of zombies. But the fact that it is spread through the English language is a very interesting concept. Um, that apparently was only really used like one more time, and they hinted at it in one small scene. There was a book sitting on like a railing called Snow Crash by Neil Stevenson, which was released in 92. And it also features an earworm or mimetic virus that transfers through verbal languages and like short circuits your brain. So it's an interesting concept that hasn't really been visited at all. And it's much more terrifying than other zombie viruses, as seen towards the end of the movie and through the credits.
So, for those of you who may have not seen the movie Pontypool, it's essentially about a radio DJ who's doing his normal show, going about his everyday existence. And unfortunately, he comes across, and the rest of his team, his production team, come across the fact that there's things going on outside of the radio station that is happening, and people are going crazy. And unfortunately, through I guess it's trial and error and witnesses reports, they learn that the English language has been infected and turning people into almost like mindless zombies. But they're not really mindless zombies, because as you watch the film, you realize that these zombies have to have a victim to survive. And the crazy thing is, it can infect anyone because they don't know which words are infected. It's, anytime they say any word in the English language, it could be that word that causes them to be infected. That concept alone is terrifying, especially because this movie is about a radio DJ who's always talking. And he doesn't, as you come to realize, he's not exactly versed in knowing French like the rest of the cast members. He's a radio DJ who kind of got thrust here because it was the only job he could get after being fired. So it makes for a very interesting and conflicting type of film when you're hearing everything as opposed to seeing everything.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because like the expanse that it covers, where there's like a French warning midway through the movie where they say like restrain from the following all terms of endearment such as honey and sweetheart talk, baby talk with young children, rhetorical discourse. For greater safety, please avoid the English language. And then they say, please do not translate this message. And it's interesting how it goes throughout the movie, because the opening monologue is just like the radio waves, and he's talking about this cat named Honey who disappeared. And he's constantly talking about Honey is this person's cat, Honey is missing. And then he starts going into that like repetition of syllables and of certain consonants and letters and everything like that, which ends up being one of the things that happens throughout the movie. And so there's the big underlying theory of, did he slightly set it off with his radio discourse because he's brand new to this station and this area? Did he just like open up the entire thing? So he thinks it's a prank that's gone wrong. And then as the movie goes on, you see how these words just develop into newer, more terrifying things. Like the whole like kill his kiss and just all these other weird situations with it. But the director actually came out and said that there were 3 steps to it, where you begin to repeat a word where something gets stuck in your brain, and it's normally set off with the like term of endearment, honey, sweetheart, whatever. Your language becomes scrambled and you can't express yourself. And then you become so distraught of your condition, the only way you feel that you can get out of the situation is to try and chew your way through the mouth of another person, which is really just gruesome.
I didn't realize about the third part of that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, like they hinted at it, and like the fact that they constantly repeat whatever they last hear can be really terrifying. Like the teenage son they talk about over the phone with the guy in the sky,
Hmm.
where it's just the small little child calling for his mommy, and you realize that that's the last thing he heard from a child he killed.
So, and one of the things I noticed that this time watching it, the whole conversation during the opening radio waves, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. Haven't seen it the second time. The first time I didn't get it because I hadn't really gotten the full scope of what the movie was about when I first saw it. But when I rewatched it before our conversation now, I realized it. I was like, oh, that's very fucking clever there. And the fact that the terms of endearment is also part of the fact that this film is all based around Valentine's Day.
Yes.
Nothing but endearment. Those type of things I really enjoyed about the story that I didn't pick up the first time. Like I didn't realize this was a Valentine movie until probably a month ago.
Well, and they don't really talk about it at all until the Sid is talking to her kids. And she's like, "No, it's not your birthday. It's Valentine's Day." And it's like, "Oh." And then you see like the Valentines they passed out and everything like that, which was a very, very minor detail at the beginning. But yeah, the fact that it's terms of endearment that sets it off, and you don't realize how many times people say like dear or honey or whatever. Like Sid says it to what's her name? Lorianne. I think that's what it is. Laurel Ann. Um, so like she calls her honey or hun or whatever, and the words get thrown around so easily. You don't realize how even in your regular day-to-day language you might be saying that, especially people in the South, where like everybody's baby or hun or honey or whatever. So it's a terrifying thought.
Which brings me up to my next thing is the sound design for this. Like you've mentioned it, that there was a lot of great references to stuff like War of the Worlds and what Orson Welles did to scare the shit out of audiences. It's almost like a reverse here where the radio station gets more terrified by what they're hearing from other people.
Yes.
It gets worse and worse, and Stephen McHattie's character just keeps like he almost like you said he feels responsible at one point for everything that's going on, and the thing is they just don't know everything that's going on. It's still developing throughout the whole film.
Yeah, like you never truly find out 100% what's going on. Like you get hints and glimpses, and then you see the discovery of them realizing that it's just the English language because you've got the doctor speaking, and I think it was Armenian, and then they start talking in French, and it's like, okay, well, it does the virus eventually figure out the similar words? Because like you've got I forgot which words they were saying, but it was like medicine and medicine with different accents on syllables or whatever. And it's like, can it adapt? And then at one point they're like, can it read lips?
Oh
Because
yes,
they're in
right.
this sound booth and it's so concerning. And then they were like, well, it's not even just that. It's like if you're just hearing the words, it's one thing. If you understand the word is when your brain starts getting stuck.
Yep.
And there was a lot of the stuff, which is why like Laurel got stuff first because she had to actually listen to make sure that any of the tapes playing were the correct thing. Whereas the other two are just letting like ads play in the background, not paying attention to it. They're not really paying attention to the people on the phone all the time because they're like talking to each other. And they're not really listening and comprehending what is being said. Like the little girl in the the musical group
Oh yeah.
where she's actually under trying to understand what she is singing and everybody else is just singing because it's just sounds at that point. But I was sitting there watching the movie with the musical point where it's Lawrence of Arabia the musical, and I was like, as a theater person, I've never heard of this. And I had to actually look it up, and they actually wrote that song for the movie. And the screenwriter is the guy who plays Lawrence of Arabia in the room singing.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I thought that was really funny. Um, and I mean, like, it's so offensive.
And
And you,
yes.
yeah, you've got like Osama bin Laden, which is a big, tall white guy in brown face, and these children in brown face, and it's like, how do you think that's okay? But at the same time, it's so left field compared to the rest of this movie.
Well, also keep in mind it's in Canada, so they do things
Yeah,
there. Uh, but that being said, the few scenes we do see outside the radio station are actually really well done as well, especially when McHattie's character first comes in contact with the first person, he thinks there's something wrong with them, and they're probably infected as well. It's a snow and during Valentine's Day. This is a snow filled, almost blizzard type of atmosphere for the film, and that's probably another reason why I never realized it was a Valentine's Day film because I'm not thinking it's freaking winter time. But it's Canada, so of course it's probably just still snow out during Valentine's. It didn't click when I first saw it. But here, the blankness of all the white everywhere, and or when there is complete darkness, when everything's in shadow, is done really well. McHattie
Yes.
goes outside the station at one point, and it's almost completely a white. Everything's shrouded in white, as though it's a blizzard going on. And I can't remember. I don't think there's a blizzard going on. I just think they get the announcement saying that no one goes outside. Uh,
Well, so they warned of ugly winter weather at the beginning because there were supposed to be school closings, which he never really gets to.
that's right.
And then everything kind of explodes with everything going on. And then you kind of sit and think you've got all these crazy people running around, and all this is happening in the snow. And you wouldn't think it would just from listening to everything going on until they hint that they're outside in the snow. So you've got like these people who could be in any condition, t-shirt, shorts, whatever. I mean, you see the people coming in at
Yeah.
the end of the movie, and you're like, how did these people survive being in the snow this long? Like, they talk about the guy who crashes through the walls, and clearly his body, he's trying to get to their guy, but he's like, all of his body parts are broken and he can't move. And it's like, oh, the body is a ridiculous beast in this. It wants to keep going no matter the situation. So,
Yeah, well, so that's the thing is you until they start breaking into the actual radio station, you kind of you can almost believe that this may be an infected and zombie thing, it may not. I mean, it's one of those things where until they break in, you have that whole Night of the Living Dead type of mentality where it's only the main characters and they're having their little they're arguing as well. They're arguing about what goes on the air, what doesn't. We can't say this unless it's been verified first, trying to find people to verify it, trying to find eyewitnesses, so on and so forth. And then, of course, at the very end, you get it where everyone breaks into this radio station all at once. Um, Very much like Night of the Living Dead, which I didn't think about until right now.
mhm.
This.
I gotta say, one of the other creative bits I really loved is they take the radio break where they do the obits,
Oh
and
yes.
they're like, this person was survived by this person, but not for very long because then they killed this person, which is in fact killing this entire family over here. And they just go through these entire groups of families that have just slaughtered each other and then started another slaughter in another family. And it's like, this is expanding very rapidly.
Well, I think yeah, over the course of what like a day.
Yeah, I mean, not even a full day. I mean, at
Yeah.
one point they show it's like almost 11 o'clock, and the military has already been there for a few hours and they don't know what's going on. So apparently the military knew a lot more than anybody else. And who knows if we'll ever find out the full thing. I know they've been working on a sequel. And
Oh hell
then yeah, so because it's a book trilogy and this is the second one in the series. And they all loosely have to do with the same thing, but I don't know if they ever really go back. I want to pick them up now because they sound great. But he was talking about making the sequel, and I guess they were going to do it. It's Pontypool, Pontypool changes, and then Pontypool changes everything. And Pontypool changes, they were going to do from inside the town and kind of hint and show some of the things they mention in the broadcast, as well as play the audio from the radio broadcast. So I was
no.
like, that could be really fun. They've been in the process of it for over 13 years, but they haven't really made it yet. And I don't blame them with the amount of money that this made for its worldwide box office, but it's definitely a sleeper hit. I mean, it's gotten so big in the horror community.
Yeah.
It's I would love to see it.
Huh. Do you know that was this a successful movie or not? I don't.
No, it was not at all. They made world
How much?
32,000.
Are you sure that's right?
Yeah. They only played in a handful of stuff. I mean, in the US, I think it said they only made 1541 opening weekend.
Oh,
And yeah, it did not make a lot of money.
that surprises me. Yeah, I thought I played at the theater, but I didn't know. I didn't know what the theater count was or any type of box office.
I think there were only a handful of theaters. It wasn't a lot, but yeah, it didn't do great
Yeah.
from the couple that they put out there. But I get it. It's not for everybody, but it's very slow at the beginning. And if you're not expecting that and you're expecting a full zombie flick, like this isn't what you would go towards.
No, and that's why I told you I didn't know much about it other than the fact that Stephen McHattie was in it. I didn't know much about it when it came out. I'm pretty sure if it was released now through IFC, it would do much better.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, this would, I mean, it's on Shudder. It's one of the top goes to on Shudder. I think it just hit this week. Because Valentine's Day.
All right. So that being said, now that our conversation has led me to think about this and kind of like parallel it to Night of the Living Dead now, and it just made me realize just how close the structure is between these two movies. Um,
Yes.
but unfortunately, in Night of the Living Dead, none of the characters ever learn to work together with, and they all die. In this one, they finally learn to work together at the very, very, very end, and they still die. Uh,
Well, kind of, because I don't know if you ever went all the way through the credits, but there's a post-credit scene.
there is a no, I did not know there was.
Yeah, so so let me start with this. So we talked about how the opening monologue is the honey and consonant repetition.
Uh-huh.
And so you get that. And so you yourself as a viewer are infected with the virus. By the end of the movie, he's doing this crazy speech in the studio that makes no sense.
Hmm.
Which, when you think about it, he's speaking the garbled nonsense he needs to clean the language and clean or cure everybody of this virus. You yourself, the audience, being that same group.
Hmm.
Throughout the credits, they then show all of these like BBC, all these local news places talking about what happened. And eventually it gets to BBC where somebody is just repeating Pontypool over and over and over again. So it has spread. It then fades out and pops up on a black and white image of the of Sid and Grant uh talking in like 50s lingo. And it doesn't make sense at all. And then it slowly changes to color, and it's supposed to be like where did I put it? Sorry.
No,
Um I'm trying to find it. They survive and continue speaking English by maintaining improvisational role play, where like you get all of those like where like in Britain they have like whatever the turtle, and it actually means like be careful going up the stairs. Like people came up with stuff like that in the 50s where it was like hip and cool to like come up with weird alliterations. So that's what they start speaking in, hinting that they did escape, and that is the only way they are now surviving is by speaking these weird languages where one thing might mean another. And so they did actually come out with another movie that is based on those characters because they call themselves oh God, what do they call themselves? Lisa and Johnny Deadeyes. So there's a whole other movie that has nothing to do with Pontypool based on just those characters, but it is hinted that they did survive afterwards. Whereas the stage play is a lot darker.
so what is this other film that uses these same characters?
Oh man.
I've never noticed this.
Yeah, no, I only noticed it this time and I was like, what the hell is going on? Um Dreamland, which actually just came out in 2019, and stars the same too. But yeah, so now I'm interested in it because it's a fantasy drama thriller film directed by Bruce McDonald
Again.
and stars the same people in multiple roles.
Huh.
So it's yeah.
That is very interesting. I will have to go get this immediately. I never knew this at all.
Yeah, no, once I started digging this time and I was like, man, I found a whole lot of everything. Like I recognized Tony Burgess, which is the
Yeah,
writer.
rather.
And I was like, I didn't realize he wrote so many books that I have actually heard about and I never had the chance to read. So now I'm like, man, I gotta find his books. I've got to read these. Uh the fact that I'll have to send you the link to the YouTube version of the stage play.
Hmm.
Because I'm really excited about it. They actually changed the ending so that where is it? Uh at the end where Grant convinces Sid kill his kiss, she asks him to kiss her instead of kill her like they do in the movie. So kiss now means kill. And he starts broadcasting the obits for all of the people as well as Sid and realizes he's been infected with the word paper and allows himself to be taken and repeats the word paper over and over again and then finally utters the word trap, hinting that you yourself in the audience have now fallen into the same trap that they did and that the play itself is a trap to make you get the virus. So the way that they kind of attribute the entire physical media into spreading the virus as a film or as a stage play is also super interesting. And I love that they do that.
That is very interesting. Huh. Oh, and as I was looking up the Pontypool trilogy, they have different names for the actual books.
Yeah, so I think Pontypool Changes Everything is the one. This is based on The Hell's Mouth of Boodley is the first one, and it just has a bunch of short stories about weird stuff
Oh,
in this fictional town, or maybe it's a real town. And
yeah,
then
it's real.
and then the third one is Caesarea, which is another mysterious virus of insomnia that causes a bunch of weird shit to happen. But like the other one of his books that I heard about that I need to pick up is the N body problem. And
Uh-huh.
basically, there's a zombie apocalypse that they run into the problem of disposing of the bodies, and there's no way they can do it anymore. So they start launching them into space. And there are so many corpses that it starts affecting the Earth's sunlight, resulting in a whole new like symptom of everything where they get like paranoia and depression. It's like you get the what's it called where it's like the winter depression. Um but yeah, so they everybody starts turning into a different kind of monster after a zombie apocalypse because they can't see the sun due to all the bodies.
That is a disturbing concept there, and I've never heard of any of these. And I've always wanted to read Pontypool Changes Everything because I enjoyed the movie, but I had never gotten around to it. And if I had, I would have realized there's three of them.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm really excited. And then if they ever did expand the films to show the rest of it like they were talking about, I mean, I think the last one I saw was they were talking in 2019 as Dreamland came out that they were still in the works of trying to make it happen, but because nobody saw the first one in theaters, they were having a hard time finding companies that would make them. So I think through Shutter, maybe it could be another Shutter original because it's hitting it big on there.
Mm,
Um, so that would be super fun, and I would love to see that.
interesting. All right, I'll definitely have to look that one up. All right. Getting back to the original Pontypool, what did you think about some of the other aspects of the film, the production itself? Since this is a very closed location and a limited amount of characters, what did you think about some of the aspects? Do you think it was successful in regards to that? Because I kept thinking that this made me feel like I was watching a film like Cube, which is a single location movie, or something like Splinter, which becomes a single location movie as well. But the radio aspect of it made me think about talk radio.
Yeah, no, I love the single location movies like Hateful Eight. I was like, I want to see a stage play version of this. And the fact that they made this into a stage play makes me so happy. But I think it was very successful. Like you've got this studio that makes it seem larger than it probably is. You've got the one safe space, which is the audio booth. And then they attempt to go outside into the real world a few times. or like somebody climbs through a window that shows like, okay, there is a world larger than just this studio. You get the phone calls and everything like that. So I think it was very well done. The music itself is very haunting and really adds to every aspect of the movie. And like I said, with McHattie's silky smooth voice, like I feel like I almost don't need to watch the movie, but just listen to it, and I understand exactly what's going on. It was very well written. Um, and it starts off slow, but I mean, any zombie movie starts off slow except for like 28 days later, 28 weeks later. So I think it's interesting how it builds. And if you are up for slow burns, this is definitely a movie for you.
So, for everyone who's listening, because this one is a slow burn and it's almost kind of like a zombie movie, but without being in a zombie movie, it's more like an infected film. So when she mentions that, 28 days later, you're hitting the nail right on the top of the coffin on this one, because that's essentially what this feels like. 'Cause it's an infected movie, but you have a chance to actually get cured, and that's one of the differences with this and a lot of the other films. 28 days later, which is a personal favorite. Actually, 28 days and 28 weeks later are both personal favorites. I actually love both of those movies.
Absolutely. They're so good.
The fact that they managed to create something different than a zombie where you're infected, which means that you're not dead, you are infected, and you can easily be killed if you get shot or mangled or something like that. It makes this even more interesting because it's the same with these type of infected zombies. I was like, you can shoot them or decap. I want to say something other than cutting or shooting them in the brains or cutting off their heads. They'll die easily. You just have to be able to kill them. Unfortunately for the people in this radio station, they don't have guns or axes nearly right next door to them that they could pull and kill somebody. They have to be a little bit more cautious and creative because if they make too much noise, obviously they're going to get chased. Um, although it brings up a different aspect, which is if they get bitten or anything, if they get infected or not, or is it just the English language that can infect them?
So it's also interesting because if they were to actually fight him, Laurel Ann, which is the only one inside the studio who gets infected, has that combat background where she could have fought the zombies, but she is the first one infected. Which I thought was really interesting because they talk about it for like 5 minutes at the beginning, how she was like the master of ceremonies or something for a fair or a parade. And it's a big deal between the three of them.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, they don't really talk about anybody getting bitten except for the people who are, we are told, are torn apart. We don't know exactly what happens. Um, but we never see them like try to bite anybody. It's just like a full-blown attack. You
Mhm.
never witness any like, oh, well, I was bit. Do I get anything from this? I think it's from what everything that was said, I think it's just the English language, but like you see the doctor leaving and he starts saying the same stuff they're saying. And it's like, are they going to bite him because he's saying the same thing that they keep repeating over and over again? Is it like a disguise like you see in some of them where like they can't smell you because you're covered in like muck and blood? Um, so it proved an interesting point of we don't know exactly what happened to the doctor. We know he lured most of them away, but we don't 100% know how this works. Where in zombie movies, it's pretty typical of like breathing the spores or biting people or whatever.
Breathing the spores, yes. Uh, so if you're looking for a typical zombie film, this is not it. Please don't think it is. It is something that's completely out of the box and new, which is actually quite refreshing because it's very rare, and very hard to find those new newer and bolder zombie ideals out there. I won't say zombie films because some people are these are infected films. I don't even want to get into that conversation between infected people and zombie people. But the ideal that these are infected, but they're still using the tropes of zombies. And now that I've kind of found the link between this film and Night of the Living Dead, I'm like, I don't think I'll ever forget that link now. When I rewatch part,
Yeah.
I'm going to see that again. I was like, and I'll have another conversation about this movie, and it'll be, yeah, see how clever they are. They use this old trope from Romero's Night of the Living Dead and improved upon it and made it more modern for modern audiences. And see, these are the things that really make me enjoy the movie now, because Night of the Living Dead, for a lot of people who know me, is one of my all-time favorite movies, which is why I'm a little bit shocked that I didn't see this whole thing before. Yes, I know, people. As much as I talk about that film and everything, I didn't see those similarities or those homages in this film until now. But the thing is, everyone's trying to come up with new ideals for the zombie genre. It's been kind of oversaturated the horror market when 10, 15 years ago, there was nobody making these movies. And of course, Pontypool decides to change everything by making the virus go through the English language. 28 days later, made it where it was infected. I'm always really satisfied and curious when storytellers, I'm going to say storytellers, come up with these new ideals to take an old trope and modernize it. This one, by taking Night of the Living Dead, War of the Worlds, two extremely different but great ideals, and melding them together, I think, was absolutely brilliant. And until you told me it didn't make much at the box office, I'm a little bit shocked that not enough people know about this film. And I'm hoping that, if you said it was on Shudder,
Yeah.
I'm hoping more people see it, because I'm a huge fan of Shudder and what they do, and they like to promote a lot of older films. So hopefully a lot more people will be able to see the movie who were never able to see it when it originally was released. So
Yeah, agreed. I really hope it does well on there because, like I said, if Shudder ends up making the next two as one of their Shudder originals, I think that's the way to go with it. Because like this guy has plenty of, I mean, you can see how well the movie was done. It was done really well. Um, like it's got great production quality. It looks good. It sounds good. The acting is phenomenal. And it's like, I can't believe that this went nowhere. Like they have such a big world that they can build with this. It could easily be something else.
it was ahead of its time.
It really was. And like I know the book Pontypool, what is it?
Changes everything.
Yeah, I know that that was written before Dead Air came out, which was 2009. But that's also kind of similar where you're in a radio station and hearing about these riots where people are kind of impervious to weapons and stuff like that. There's some kind of crazy riot breakout of something. I can't remember because it's been a long time since I've seen it
Same here.
exactly what it was. But I'm surprised more people haven't used it. It's very effective.
Well, we'll say this, since Shudder has done some amazing sequels to the VHS franchise, and
Yes.
kind of pulled it out of the grave that it was after the third one, and actually achieved making some pretty damn good sequels. If you're listening, someone at Shudder, please take more time with actually, or take an ideal from us and look into making a sequel to Pontypool. We
Yes,
believe it's worth.
please. It will totally be worth it. I mean, ugh, no, it's so great.
So, with that, are there any final words you have about Pontypool for our listeners?
I guess just be careful of repeating words, and this Valentine's Day, don't call everybody by like nice things. Call everybody asshole and motherfucker, and maybe you won't get the disease, and otherwise just start speaking in gibberish until it sounds like a language, and maybe you'll be cured.
I don't think I could say anything better than that. Valentine's Day don't have any endurance whatsoever, or you can get infected. Valentine's Day is a very infectious disease. And that's how we're going to end this. I want to thank everybody for joining our conversation this week. I hope you have a pleasant Valentine's Day for the rest of Valentine's Day in general and for the rest of this month. We have plenty of stuff to that you'll hopefully listen to because we are celebrating Valentine's Day and Black History Month all month long with special episodes. So please check them out. Check out any of the other episodes that we've also aired in regards to not only the specials this month, but also our other episodes that we've done in the past. And we look forward to having you back for some of the future episodes that we have because we have a lot of great cults and classic horror films to dissect and infect you with. Thank you all for joining us for Conversations in Horror. I am Kevin L. Powers, and you all have a pleasant day. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, produced by Kevin L. Powers, executive produced by Kelly A. Inoka, and originally filmed via Zoom technology. Conversations in Horror is hosted by Kevin L. Powers and co-hosted by various horror film lovers and filmmakers. To learn more about Mr. Powers, please make sure to check out his Patreon page and other social media platforms. Conversations in Horror is copyright 2024 Broken Lighthouse Pictures production.